in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought?
And of course, we have rational thoughts all the time. We'll just make sure that our guest today actually has them. He does, because he's a successful salesperson, sales trainer in the agricultural industry in Canada for 20 years. He's an accomplished speaker, deeply involved in farm, family, and local community. He's got a passion for ag, man. He really loves his bean sprouts. So pay attention to him. He lives in Scotland, but not Scotland across the pond. Scotland, Ontario. He's got a 3-acre hobby farm. Successful sales guy, like I mentioned. He's an accomplished Toastmaster, so you'll hear some witticisms here, hopefully today.
There you go.
Happy husband, proud father of 4 children, a lucky grandfather of 7 grandchildren, and lives in Scotland, Ontario. Hey, welcome to the show, my good friend and author, Jody Durand. Jody, how are you today?
Super. How are you, Doug? Very nice. Very kind of you to have me on.
My pleasure. We're going to talk about something very unusual today, and folks, stick around for this because Jody's going to teach us why he trains his customers to sell for him. Most salespeople have to sell their stuff. Nah, Jody's like, I'm going to teach you how to sell my stuff.
Yes.
And there are other things that they do, which is a really good way to help those who want to help themselves, I guess. So we'll get to that in a minute. Before we do, we want to talk about the country boy here, how he got involved in the glorious and respectful world of sales, coming from the agriculture background. How you grew up on a farm or what? Tell us your background here.
Yeah. So Doug, thanks for having me on as per previous conversation. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to grow up on a family farm, which puts me into the, 1% of the population in North America.
Yeah.
I bought that farm when I was 20 years old from my dad, who had just passed away. My mom was alone. And so she decided to move away. So I learned how to farm the hard way, which I wish I could share with the group, the easy way to learn anything. But there is just no easy way. There's only the hard way.
How many acres? What kind of farm was it?
It was a 100-acre farm, and we had about 2,000 pigs and we had a bunch of other stuff going on. And it was a full-time occupation, for a one-man operation. So that was a good thing.
Whoa. You had 2,000 pigs and one-man operation?
Yes.
I don't understand how that's possible. I have a hard time herding one dog. How the hell do you manage 2,000 pigs?
You manage your time, you learn what to do, and you follow through. You make a plan, you follow through. That's it, really.
Wow.
There's a lot of automation involved. Not every day you have to look at every single pig, certainly, but throughout all the various branches of the operation, I had pigs from birth to finish.
Yeah.
So from birth at 3 pounds, from their little fuzzy pink velvet,
right,
beautiful, to 300 pounders that will run you over like a linebacker in a football game.
Yeah, right. That's because of the good drugs you're probably giving him. We'll talk about that in a moment. That's what he does, folks. He sells drugs to pets. I mean, animals, not pets. All right.
I sell medications to keep large animals healthy, Doug. Thanks for asking.
That's right. I'm just having fun, All right. So you have this family farm. You're 20 years old.
Yes.
How long did you run that before you got into sales?
So for the longest time, I avoided sales. My dad told me when I was 8 years old, keep careful, son. You end up as an underwear salesman. I don't know why that stuck with me for the longest time. Needless to say, being a farmer is a tough gig. And it's hard to, you got to make payments. There's a reason only 1% of the population or less is doing it, is because it's a hard gig.
Yeah.
And so for the 15 years I tried, and I did farm successfully, but as the journey of life goes, lots of opportunities came my way, and I said, no, I'm not ready. I'm not going to be some salesman. I'm not doing sales. And finally, my life took a 180-degree turn from a young punk who lived in Zurich, Ontario, which is all European names, Zurich, Scotland. I lived in London, Paris, but all in Ontario. A young guy in Zurich, I decided to own and operate and manage a 24-seat telemarketing outbound call center.
Oh, my.
Which was very perfectly positioned at the time with a favorable dollar from US to Canada.
Yeah.
We were selling products into the US. So I learned firsthand what it took to successfully sell in the US.
Wow.
After 3.5 years of that lesson, I decided it was time to go into ag sales.
Hmm.
And so from that point forward, how did I learn? I'm really the perfect guy in a position as a sales trainer because I've been a farmer. So I've been sold to by successful feed
Sure.
salesmen,
Yeah.
successful genetic salesman,
Hmm.
successful seed salesman.
Hmm.
I have been a salesman. So I've done the sales thing. I've been on farm, just like you guys who are listening here today, wondering, how can I do this? How can I move the needle in a very difficult industry where everyone's got a smartphone? There's less and less and less farmers. They're getting to be harder and more savvy all the time. So you really need to be special to move the needle. And then I spent the last 15 years as an observer of successful feed reps.
Hmm.
So I got all three sides of the perspective.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've learned over the time. And now, what have I done sales training wise? I participated myself in 3 or 4 sales training courses, which are nice. I took the Xerox sales course, which probably make a few guys with gray hair laugh a bit, but and I took a few other sales training courses, and they're all nice. They're not bad. There's
Hmm.
just all practice, some
Yeah.
better than others. But really, agricultural sales, because of the finite number of customers,
Hmm.
is about relationships.
Yeah.
It's about relationships. You have to differentiate yourself and move the needle forward. And really, the only way to do that is through differentiation.
Hmm.
Unless you're lucky enough to have, the cure for cancer you're running around with that everybody's just going to buy anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody has that.
Yeah.
So we're all the same. We have to specialize, drive things forward using your relationships, and that's really that's really my strategy. That's my skills.
Wow, I love that. Of course, that's what we focus on as a relationship
Yes.
building in our company. What has been your I love stories, Jody. So you can give me
Yeah.
like the biggest horror story as a salesperson. Give me the toughest customer, or the worst thing you ever, the dumbest thing you ever did. I want to hear some good story.
Okay. Well, here's a good lesson that I use in my sales training. It's called creating a debt. No problem, Doug. You want some help with management advice. You want me to find you maybe hired help. You want me to find you more land to rent, more barns to rent. You want me to find you information about a genetic source. You want me to find you information on a government program.
Hmm.
No problem, Doug. I'll help you out. And so, being a Jody helpful kind of guy,
Yeah.
my horror story is I invested a significant amount of time and effort, and I found one farmer in particular, about 9 operations that he could work with. And I went and interviewed all those 9 operations, assuming I was getting the business to feed all those 9 operations.
Mm.
And I put it all together in a fantastic package, and I sent it through to him. And on Friday, on purpose, at 4:30, he calls me because he knows you're going to be a little bit on edge. And he's like, Jody, I've decided I'm going to go with you. I really appreciate all that information, but I'm not giving you any of the feed business. I'm giving you this little barn. And I'll not to be fair, this little barn would have been fine just by itself. But considering I did 100 times that much work and I deserved 100 times that much more feed volume, I learned a very, very, very valuable lesson. And this is it, Doug. Doug, no problem. I can help you. If I do, will you give me this?
Yeah.
If you do not say, will you give me this, they expect you're just there to help. So they're going to take advantage of you.
Wow. And to be clear, it's not like you have to have a written contract, because it's just the man's word. This is what you'll do, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, that guy was an extra special schmuck. So, I mean, that was pretty mean spirited, and everybody in our industry will share. If I, shared that story and they're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. He would have done that to you.
Yeah.
Most people won't do that to you, but there's really something subtle. And the reason we don't ask, Doug, and this is key, is we don't want to hear no.
Mhm.
Because there's a chance I'll say, hey, Doug, I'll get you that. I'll get you this or that or whatever. But I need your starter business, or I need to get a corn seed for next year. You might turn around and say, no. Then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, You see, if I wouldn't have asked, I maybe would have got a shot, and then maybe eventually, blah,
You're
blah,
still
blah,
going to
blah,
say
blah.
no. Yeah.
You just sped the process up. You have to plant the words in their mouth so they come back to you.
Right.
You know, it's like being in politics. If you don't ask for my vote, I'm not going to give you and I've done some politics work myself on a really small scale.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I lost an election 15-14. And on the way home in the car with a bunch of farmers, I'm like, I can't believe I lost. And the one guy said, well, you didn't ask me for my vote. I'm like, I didn't have to ask you. You're my friend. Nope. If you'd have asked me, I would have voted for you.
Wow.
You have to ask.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh, I love that concept. Okay, so if you're going to do a bunch of things, make sure there's at least some kind of an agreement ahead of time before you waste a lot of time.
Yes.
However, I'm also curious about the idea of, selfless service. And one of my favorite books I'm reading the second time is this one by Adam Grant, Give and Take.
Okay.
He talks about givers and takers in transaction. There's like 3 levels. There's a giver, there's a taker, and the transactional people.
Yes.
And they all have their place. We all have done all these things.
Yes.
But he was weighing the data science on one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also build relationships without a transaction in place?
Unfortunately, due to the fact there are so few customers out there to call on, so few prospects, you do end up building value without anything in return. And so what are you doing? Here's another saying we use in the feed business or in any ag business. I'll position myself as number 2. That's no problem. So if it's safe to say, Doug, you're not ready to switch today, but if your current supplier does make a mistake or something bad happens,
right,
would you be willing to buy from me? If you say the words yes, then you know what? You're verbally kind of contracting yourself to me as number 2. And you could bet, sure as God made little green apples, number 1 is going to mess up sometime because we're all human beings. We all mess up.
Yeah.
So position yourself as number 2 is my best advice.
Okay, I like that. Which brings us to our hook of the show here about how you help your customers sell for you, which is a little bit misleading because I know you're helping them sell in general, but
yeah,
you've got a very unique way of helping getting the right, medicine for livestock and whatnot.
Yes.
But when you're doing your sales training, it's not always about your product, right?
No. What we're doing really, and this is the most important thing in the ag world, if we're talking about the livestock side of the ag world, you have to put the goggles of the chicken on, or the goggles of the cattle, dairy cow, or the goggles of the pig on.
The goggles of the chicken. Oh no, don't take my head off.
If you're not doing what's going to benefit their life or improve their health or reduce the cause of mortality, then it's not going to work. The second pair of goggles you got to put on is the customer goggles, or the guy who's writing the check. Again, and I kind of fight with my boss in my current role the odd time. He's like, this is a great product we should sell. And I go out in the field and I ask questions and I find out it's not a great product. Number 1, because nobody uses it. It's too expensive. Number 2, there's alternatives that are just as good or better. So let's focus on things we can win with. Don't focus on things you're going to lose. Yeah. So when I do my sales training, what I do is I'm helping feed reps out generally to help them move the needle. So we're talking all about the five phase sales process, right from the opening cold calls to the closing and everything in between. But what I'm really doing is I'm building rapport with all those feed reps. So they look at my product list at the end and go, hey, this here, I actually sell a fair bit of it. I've never sold that. And then I have a relationship with them. And then I'm like, well, actually, you know why you should use that? Because it helps your producers in this way. You know why you should use that? Because otherwise, I'm just calling them as another person knowing them in their lives. Like, what do you want from me, man? Like, I'm busy. I'm busy calling on my customers and can keep my boss happy and my wife happy. And I'm just trying to help you make your customers more money. Or in some cases, lose less money today, because that's how it is. So that's really what I'm doing, is I'm trying to influence them to assist them in their job so they can make their customers more profitable.
So for the people who don't understand what we're talking about, because they might not understand the feed ag business like you do, and I have a little bit of knowledge on it.
Yes.
What you're doing is you're going to basically a center of influence. Someone's already selling feed
Yes.
to farmers who are raising livestock.
Yes.
You're not going to farmers of livestock. You're going to the guys who are also selling to them their feed, which they need all the time. And
Yes.
saying, I can help you sell more feed, developing a relationship with that guy so that when it come time for the farmer point, he's like, oh, talk to Jody.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Kind of talk to Jody, but I don't mind traveling with salesmen to help, but there's just too many of them. There's too many customers, too much territory to cover. So really what I'm doing is I'm a resource. I'm there as a phone call. I'm only a phone call away. Like, hey, I remember you told me about this. Use this product in this way. I just fresh my memory again because I got a guy who called me last night. He's got that problem and I want help today with it. Yeah, no problem. I can help you out. So that's how we do it. Imagine, here's an analogy, Doug. I'm a pepperoni salesman and you make pizzas.
Yeah.
So people don't buy the pizza and go, geez, I hope Jody's pepperoni's on there. But I go, Doug, guess what? You know, the pepperonis you're using, they're too small. They don't taste as good. I can make I can make them a little bit cheaper. I can add flavor. We could have a different pepperoni variation altogether and have a different pizza. It's a way to improve your SKU on the product you're selling.
Right. I love that. Speaking of SKU on products, if you're open to it, I'd love to talk about, hormones and, what cattle people talk, probably the GMO debate. People have a very narrow field of view of what that means.
Yes.
And I'd love to get your perspective on that since you're obviously in the
Yeah. So, I mean, the opportunity is this. We in North America have the luxury of being able to write a check for whatever we want. So if you are so inclined to believe that organic meat or organic grain or organic vegetables, if you feel that that's of value to you and you want to pay for it, then go ahead. God bless you. Go ahead and pay for it. But what I can assure you is that conventional food, whether it's milk, dairy, beef, pigs, chicken, crops, cornflakes, whatever, that are just grown and produced using conventionally produced livestock or crops are perfectly safe because the government is in between checking on these things.
Yeah.
And the other thing that really I want to draw to your attention is every person involved, Doug, in the process is a mom or a dad or has nieces, nephews. So why would I, as a farmer, produce something that could poison somebody when I would feed it to my own kids? I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
And we're all concerned about our own kids. We're all concerned about our old people. We're all old is fairly relative. That's 5 years older than me. So yeah, we're all concerned about that. So yeah, that would be my take. If you want to choose organic or non-GMO, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. But just bear in mind that conventional is perfectly fine and safe.
And if you can speak about this, great. If you can't, I'll move on. But my brothers work for Pioneer Seed.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a couple of times. Like, you know what? All seed has been genetically modified.
Yes.
And a lot of those modifications were like, hey, get the tassels and go like this. It's like I'm just planting things naturally, right? It's like I'm making it better. And the pesticides have we've gotten much better since the 70s on making the pesticides safer.
Yes.
And without that, I mean, gosh, your yields would be horrible, and there's a lot of other things that go with it. But I think the word genetically modified is really blown out of proportion. They don't realize that everything has some kind of modification to it nowadays, even the organic stuff, right?
Yeah, you and I are genetically modified by our parents.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just something that's done in a laboratory, which is a bit scary. But you have to balance that off to what we said 5 minutes ago, which is in North America, most of us can write a check and purchase whatever we want. In countries that don't have enough food, believe me, they're not too worried about organic or genetic modified. They're worried about, I want food today. Please produce it in a way that's safe and nutritious and relatively inexpensive, so I don't have enough.
I've eaten chicken in Vietnam. It's like this big versus the ones we have here. So I like the plump ones myself. So we covered the horror story of the guy taking advantage of. What about a good one? What is a success story, like the best interaction you have with one of a customer or an associate?
Yeah. So the thing is, in my world now, so I described the feed sales or the normal salesman world. I actually call on the the managers of the feed companies or the veterinarians, and there's very few of them.
Yeah.
So they're a lot more difficult to deal with because there's 50 Jodys and there's 15 or 25 of them in a certain territory.
Wow.
And so everybody wants a piece of them. And of course, why? Because getting one of them can produce a tremendous amount of volume.
Sure.
So I have one particular client now that is about 1/3 of my business. And I'm a very successful rep. I mean, I was like 148% of my budget last year. And
Nice.
the boss was, it's not very sustainable, quite honestly. But anyway, you might as well ride the ride when you're riding it. But I have one particular client that when I started here in this new job 5 years ago, I must have pursued this guy very patiently, very quietly, very politely for about 14 months to get a signature on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And the guy is, if he was on this call, he's just like you and me, the super nicest guy in the world, but just would not commit. And so after a long pursuit, we put a system in his feed mill that reduces his carbon footprint substantially, which is quite a big thing in the world today.
Yep.
So there's an additive that goes in every feed ton called an enzyme. Enzymes are used to improve nutrition, to get more out of the grains that come from the ground that we plant, put in the feed, grind it up. That's what an enzyme's for.
Okay.
So we put a system in his plant that shrunk 100 bags down to a 10-kilo bag.
Ooh.
And the 10-kilo bag goes into a machine that's all automated and sprays on the feed on the way by. And there's nobody having to rip bags open and mess up the additive rate and all that stuff. So it's called a Hoovomatic.
Okay.
So we need more of those in the world because the carbon footprint of 100 bags of enzymes or a monstrous toad of enzymes that's half water or 3/4 water, the carbon footprint to transport that all over the place versus a 10-kilo bag is pretty substantial.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Night and day.
Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
But you have a handshake. If I do this for you, you'll take care of me later, right? I mean, this is one of the.
Well, here's what the deal is. The machine we put in, this Hoovomatic, if you look at it, looks like it could launch a spaceship, for God's sakes. But it's designed to be used all over the world. And it is. It's used in Thailand. It's used in Spain. It's used in South America.
Yeah.
So it looks like it costs $100,000. Maybe it does. I don't know. But basically, we put it in for free, and you use our enzymes going forward.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that would be what the hesitation is. If I put the machine in, you're using my enzyme because nobody else's enzymes work with this. Nobody else has this concept.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be my biggest success.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, biggest success since now that you're a published author. So talk a bit about your book. This is author your brand show, for God's sakes.
Yes. Here's my book. Oh,
there you go.
Let's get that there. There you go.
Country Boy Soul.
Yes. The beautiful cover was created by the rather handsome man on the other side of the screen there.
Not me, it was my team, but okay, thank you.
And my book is really, it's a wonderful story. And it's about my journey from start to finish, to basically from start, I don't want to be an underwear salesman, to 20 years being a successful sales trainer.
Right.
And the journey to get there, really. And like everybody's journey, as per previous, there's no easy way. No. I decided to take the extremely hard way. But anyway, we did get there eventually. So yeah.
And having worked with you on the book, I will say that it's not just for people in the agriculture industry or even people who are. I think anybody who reads this will be entertained, informed, and there's some useful nuggets there about going through your career and life and stuff. So don't be misled by or hoodwinked by this charming country boy guy, because there's a lot of good chunks of wisdom in there. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's things in there for people that have failed at their jobs, people that have failed at marriage, bankruptcy. There's a lot of life lessons in there, and what you find out now that I've written the book, and my wife was very nervous about it. It's quite a reveal, let's just say. And now that we've written it, the amount of people that have called me to tell me, "Man, I can't believe how much you and I are alike," and you're like, "Wow." The back of the book, my dad's favorite saying was, "It all looks good from the road, son." And that is really the truth.
Yeah.
Everybody, Doug, Jody, we all look like we all got it together. It's all great. Let's look at my Facebook page. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, you're right. I get you.
You know, but the truth is, and this is what the key is, it's not awesome. It's normal life. But what is beautiful about it is that's what makes you as a person.
Yeah.
That's what makes you as a person. It's not what you celebrate. It's your failures and the struggles to get to galvanize yourself into becoming the person you are. Some can learn it, and very few, but some can just naturally learn it the easy way and just march to success. But I gather that not many do that.
I think they're all liars. I think somebody once told me you're either in a crisis, about to go into a crisis, or just getting out of one. But it's going to be a sine wave. You're always going to be something's coming up. So when things are good, just make hay while the sun is shining, to take a
Yes.
term there. But yeah, there's always going to be something coming or going in life. So I think that's the lessons I got from it, is like, your attitude towards the ups are as important as the attitudes on your downs. You got to have.
Yeah. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. That's probably a real good saying.
I love that.
So.
I love that. So hold that book up one more time, Jody. You want to show the book off here?
Sure. Yeah.
Wrap up. Country Boy Soul, folks.
Yes. Anybody that contacts me that's interested in any agricultural sales training, I'll send you a free copy of the book.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
There you
go.
go.
The link's down here below in the thing. There'll be a link posted for his book and contact stuff, all that. So thank you very much, Jody. Appreciate your time today. You were a gentleman and a scholar, and appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Thanks a million, sir. Take care.
You bet.